I wish to thank Mr. Justice Vigneswaran and the other organizers of this event for giving me an opportunity to be able to say a few words on this occasion dealing with land grab in the northeastern provinces of Sri Lanka, which perhaps has been the most controversial issue in the country since the country attained independence in 1947. After about the time the country attained independence and thereafter, successive governments of Sri Lanka have pursued a policy of colonizing the northeast of Sri Lanka, particularly the eastern province, by which I mean developing new irrigation schemes, bringing on irrigation more land, and settling on that land Sinhalese citizens from the other parts of the country so as to change the demographic composition of the eastern province in particular. I might just mention some figures to demonstrate how serious this has been. The island-wide increase in the singular population from 1947, when the country attained independence, till 1981, the last available census, was 238%, or 2.5 times. In the same period, the Sinhalese population in the eastern province increased by 883%, or 9 times over. 2.5 times in the whole country, 9 times in the eastern province. In the Trincomalee district, the Sinhalese population increased by 500%, or 5 times over. In Jampara district, the Sinhalese population increased by 1,200%, 12 times over. This shows the extent to which colonization took place. Tamil political leadership took note of the situation, and our leader, the late Mr. Chelmanagam, conducted negotiations with Mr. Thambiranee Bandaranaike, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, and there was the Bandaranaike-Chelmanagam Pact in 1957. Under that pact, regional councils were to be created, one for the northern province, 2 or more for the eastern province, because there were 3 communities in the eastern province. The regional councils were given the power to amalgamate beyond provincial boundaries, and they were given the power to select allottees in colonization schemes and to select the persons who would work on land development schemes. In other words, control of state land in terms of the arrangement was brought under the regional councils. Unfortunately, that pact was not implemented. Subsequently, in 1965, there was the Dalits-Chelmanagam Pact, in terms of which priorities were laid down for land irrigation in the northeastern province. The first priority was landless persons in the district concerned. The second priority was landless Tamil-speaking persons in the northern and eastern provinces. And the third priority was landless persons in the rest of the country, but priority being given to Tamil citizens from the rest of the country. That pact too was not implemented, and colonization went ahead. Then there was the Indo-Sri Lanka Agreement on 29 July 1987, signed between Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and President J.R. Jayawardena, in terms of which it is recognized and accepted that Sri Lanka was a multi-ethnic, multilingual, plural society comprising of Tamils, Sinhalese, Muslims, and that each one of these groups, each one of these ethnicities had a distinct identity which has to be preserved and nurtured, and then the northern and eastern provinces have been the areas of historical habitation of the Tamil-speaking people and should therefore form one unit of devolution. This was the agreement arrived at in 1987 under the Indo-Sri Lanka Agreement. So, though the government carried on with the program of colonization, settling the northeast, particularly the eastern province, with singular people, brought afresh, government was compelled to accept that the Tamil-speaking people had a legitimate concern in the future of the north and the east, and that they were territorially identified as Tamil linguistic territories. Apart from settling people, they carried out further government policies like demarcating new electorates, demarcating new grammar divisions, demarcating new district divisions. Ampara elections came into being in 1960 March. That was the first time a single was elected member of parliament in the eastern province. Thereafter, now we have 3 to 4 members of parliament being elected from Ampara in the eastern province. Thinkable elected in the Thinkable district, civil elected came into being for the first time in 1977. Fortunately, we have been able to restrict the membership to 1 person. New administrative districts were created. New DS divisions were created. New grammar divisions were created. After fulfilling the settlement of some Sinhalese, a limited number of people in a large area, DS division was carved out, including that area with a lot of undeveloped, unoccupied land, to enable the government to pursue the policy of single settlement in the eastern province. This happened in the Ampara district in a big way, happened in the Thinkable district in a big way. So the government has been working on a policy of settling singular people even in new DS divisions and new grammar divisions in such a manner as to increase the singular population, restrict the influence and power of the Tamil-speaking people, and enable the Sinhalese people to do whatever they wanted in areas which have been historically inhabited by the Tamil-speaking people. There has been a long time demand for the amalgamation of the north and the east and the merger of the north and east in one province for the purpose of power sharing and devolution. Efforts were made to bifurcate this linguistic contiguity between the north and the east. People were settled in border areas, in a place called Manalaru, in a place called Vilioya, to enable the bifurcation, the division of the linguistic contiguity. Fortunately, that has not happened. Despite all these things happening over a long period of time, even today, the majority of the people in every single district in the north and the east, in Japta, in Kiridochi, in Manap, in Babunia, in Murutrebu, in Trikabari, in Baliklo, Ampara, the majority of the people in every one of the districts is Tamil-speaking. And the Tamil-speaking people are not really the majority in the northern province, in the eastern province, but in every district in the north and the east. Currently, they are engaged in forest department actions, wildlife department actions, archaeological department actions. Archaeological department claims that there are ancient monuments which exist in the eastern province. A special task force will be set up to preserve archaeological monuments under a pan-Sinhala task force comprising of Buddhist monks who are spearheading the preservation of archaeological monuments in the eastern province. Monuments which have been there from the country until independence. But now they are thought to be preserved, additional land allocated, people thought to be settled in those areas in such a way that the Sinhalese population will further increase. Forest department is occupying land from which our people were evicted, to which they are now returning, but which have become overgrown in jungle. And forest department claims that the land belongs to forest department, where people have deeds, documents, permits to prove that they have been in possession They've owned this land and have cultivated or lived on these lands for generations. Wildlife Department. Wildlife Department also is claiming that large extent of lands are wildlife sanctuaries and must be preserved, with lands which were earlier occupied and cultivated and depended upon by some speaking people. Archaeological Department is claiming monuments. Pasture land of some people have been taken over in the north and the east, and they're preventing people from cultivating, from having rearing their cattle on these pasture lands. So all in all, there has been a deliberate plan which has been pursued by the government, despite all their efforts to take over land and convert the eastern province into a majority Sinhalese area. They have not yet been successful, because our people have lived on these lands for a long, long time. They have deep roots in this land. They have possessed this land for generations and centuries. And every district in both the north and the east still continues to be a Tamil-speaking majority district. It is time that very firm action was taken, and that this matter is brought to the notice of virtually everyone in this country. We are not against the Sinhala people. We are not saying Sinhala people should not receive land in the eastern province or London province. But it must not be done in such a way as to deliberately convert those areas which have been traditionally and historically Tamil-speaking areas to majority Sinhala-speaking areas. That's our position. So we urge everyone concerned with justice and equality and unity and well-being and reconciliation amongst the different communities to join together to resist this program. Violence was unleashed against the Tamil people. People were killed. People were injured. People were chased away. 50% of the Tamil population in this country live overseas, they live abroad. In that position, we are trying to further weaken our position by sending more Sinhalese and this from the resistance. I would appeal to everyone to contribute their best efforts towards the achievement of the very just goal. Thank you.